Welcome everybody to the Old Gold Show. With you as always, co-manager over at Hammer and Rails. I'm Andrew Ledman.
I'm Casey. It's way too early, Bartley. Boiler upload, Rivals Network.
We're recording this at 8:45 in the morning. This is not early. Casey is just the type to work late into the evening
I
and not wake up early.
I I did so much work for like 6 years to become not this person anymore. Like I had like normal jobs. I got up at like 6 to go to work in the morning. And then even when I came back and started doing this again, I didn't fully commit to the nighttime lifestyle. I don't know what it is this season, but like last week I get in from Ann Arbor at like 3 in the morning. Um, I don't know. Just fully on board with this is way too early.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's
Well,
winter. I think that's what it
it
is.
is winter. The sun is causing problems for everybody. Not up in the morning, it's goes down early, you get no daytime. But we are coming to you after Purdue is coming off two losses in a row. One in Ann Arbor, as Casey just noted, and then one this weekend against the Wisconsin Badgers, a 10-point loss there, 94-84. Purdue allows 94 points at home to a Wisconsin team that shot 61% from the floor. Uh, and even better if you only count twos, which we can maybe get into a little bit later. But Casey, two losses in two games for the Purdue Boilermakers. That is uncharacteristic for a Matt Painter coach team over the last, 6, 7 years. What do you notice any similarities between the two losses, and in particular between the defensive effort that we saw with Michigan and Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's actually the second time this season Purdue's lost two in a row,
Correct.
which is weird because, like you said, it hasn't happened for a while. Um, there's some similarities there that the second loss in both of those are against the two best offenses Purdue's faced all year. As for the Michigan Wisconsin similarities, I don't see a ton in terms of style of play and like basketball. Like that Michigan game was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Uh, Free throws, fouls. We don't need to keep talking about all that kind of stuff, but like that was definitely a big part of it on the road. I'd argue Purdue's offense was a lot better against Wisconsin. Uh,
Sure. I mean, 84 points, that's enough to win you most games, especially in the Big Ten.
yeah, I, a lot of the times, Matt Painter's pretty good about mentioning like we watch through a Purdue lens, so we think every game is about what Purdue did or didn't do. A lot of that Wisconsin game was about what Wisconsin did.
Yeah.
If you're talking about in the last few years, I've kind of been unworried about Wisconsin playing Purdue, not because it's not a like good team, because it is a good program, but usually they get by out executing teams and then
Hmm.
having less talent. When you go to Purdue, who is the other team in the Big Ten that really executes well, so I always thought they had a leg up, especially with Zach Edey on the floor. What what kind of happened was, Purdue's used to out executing teams and used to offenses kind of bailing them out a little, whether it be by turnovers or some bad possessions. And in that second half in particular, Wisconsin just didn't have a bad possession.
Yeah,
Uh,
not at all.
if it was a tough shot, they made it. But generally, the ball got to where they wanted it to get to. It attacked one-on-ones the way it wanted to attack. And certainly in the Big Ten, it's it's kind of hard to think of Wisconsin this way just because of the historic precedent of how they are. But like they have legitimate guys with the ball in their hands more than probably any other team in the conference. Because it's not just John Tonje, it's Max Klesmit, it's John Blackwell. When he's not tapping people in the nuts, running people into the nuts. Kamari McGee is like, yeah, it looked way worse live.
Did it?
Yeah, because he did have like a weird like wind up into it, it looked
Yeah.
like. But when you watch it in like slow-mo, it looked like his arm was just out and then Trey was
Yeah,
there.
well, and I wasn't sure why his arm was out in a
Yeah,
fist because that's not naturally how you're playing defense.
yeah,
You don't generally put your fists up and come around a screen. I understand he was fighting through a screen, but like that's really not how you hold your hands. So
yeah,
it was a little bit strange.
yeah. Big controversy. I think it's a dumb rule where
Yeah, it's worded poorly.
it's worded poorly and it's like categorized as a flagrant two. Why why wouldn't you have it in a way where you can judge whether it's a flagrant one and flagrant two like every other flagrant foul?
Right. Yeah, it
Just,
should if they're going to do it, it should be a referee discretion because they're the ones watching the game. You can it's hard to put intent on anything when you're watching a replay over and over and over again. And intent in general in a sporting event is so hard. It's like targeting in the NFL or college. You're like, well, it happened so immediately. Did the receiver duck his head? Who knows? I just think it's a very poorly written rule.
yeah, and the rule's written in the way where like it really seems defined only for like the weird ones where like the hand flips back and like flicks
Yeah,
it a little or weird stuff. Like that one was just like he bulldozed into the area of Trey Kaufman Rin that his height allows him to,
true.
which unfortunate for Trey was right in the marbles.
Yeah, yeah.
But but back to Wisconsin, it's just like John Tonje is as good as anyone in the country with the ball in his hand.
He's
Max
also
Klesmit,
approximately 40 years old
yes, I
in
do
his
believe it
sixth
is
season of
his.
college
Yeah,
basketball. Yeah,
yeah. So experience, big, good with the ball in his hands. Yeah, he was 6 of 6 from inside the arc. Max Klesmit. If you're talking about someone who like outperformed what he normally does on the inside, like he goes 4 for 4, gets to the line 7 times. Blackwell's a problem, just athletically super quick. So you're talking about three guys who are good with the ball in his hands against a defense that even when Purdue's doing well, penetration's always been an issue.
yeah.
And so Wisconsin just executed in a way where they gave them no room to breathe in the second half.
Now, I mean, everything you're saying is true. I understand that they have a very talented set of guys on that team, some slashers, guys who were able to get to the hoop. I get that. But at the same time, Purdue has five guys out on that court who are there to stop them. And you, what?
You
Well,
That's like
hold
a
on,
gross
hold
overestimation of
on,
what
hold
lawyers out
on,
there for.
hold on. Whether they're the best defenders or
Mhm.
not, their job is to go out there, slow them down, stop them, put them into bad shots, make them have bad positions, bad possessions, so that they miss. Purdue gets rebounds. You would think just sheer odds would allow Wisconsin to miss more than two of their 2 pointers. I mean, they went 20 of 22 from inside the 3 point line. The odds of that happening just
Right.
seem astronomical, even with, the five worst defenders in the country out there. So like what happened? I don't understand.
Sometimes it's your night. Um,
Sure,
I I think first of all, the flagrant call seemed to really like wake up Wisconsin
true.
because Purdue was outplaying them early. I I sometimes teams just make a lot of shots, and I definitely think it was one of the worst efforts in terms of just again, it comes back to you can give a lot of teams some stuff because they're going to find a way to screw it up. I'm not sure Wisconsin made a bad like mental play the entire second half
No.
compared to Purdue, who looked weirdly frustrated from the jump almost,
Yeah.
or pretty much from that flagrant foul on. They look frustrated. We have Lawyer like visibly upset that he's being taken out of games. Uh, Obviously, the Klesmit call at half court was ugly.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that Purdue was letting get in their head, and I think part of that is because Wisconsin just didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I mean, it does have to be, it must be very frustrating, especially you saw a number of possessions where Purdue played defense for, with
Yeah,
3, 2, 1 second left on the shot clock, and then Wisconsin throws up a shot. And granted, they were still decent shots because again, that's what Wisconsin does. But to see them make those time and time again, it's got to be backbreaking because you're like, I put in all this effort. We did
mhm.
exactly what we were supposed to do. We put them in a bad position and they convert anyway. You kind of got to go down to the other end of the court and just like, well, you're like,
It's
what do we
hard.
got to do?
Yeah, it's hard. I do think it comes down to that. Painter talked about it a ton after the game, like the mental resolve Wisconsin had it, Purdue didn't. And when you're there definitely seems to be a growing frustration with some of the shot making around Braden Smith.
What do you mean?
Like Braden passed up open looks to Camden Heidi like 8 times in that second
Yeah.
half. And God forbid you mention that on Twitter, because then every negative hoo-hoo just starts going, well, I wouldn't pass Cam Heidi the ball either.
Right.
And while fundamentally, like Braden Smith is not the first point guard to not throw passes to someone who they don't believe is going to make a shot. And at this point, like the evidence of Heidi making a three is
Right.
on
Is
the lower end. It's funny because I kind of asked about the shooting slumps, and someone asked about Braden and how you have to coach him. And like one of the things Painter said this week was, I've got to get on him about trusting his guys no matter what. And that's a case of that. And the problem is when defenses are leaving someone wide open,
they're
it
doing it for a
means,
reason.
well, more so than that, though, it's it's a worse return on investment because all of a sudden that means there's 5 defenders guarding you and everyone else.
Hmm.
So you're not going to have as many passing lanes. No one else is really going to be that open, and you're going to take bad shots. Like I thought, Braden Smith's shot selection was the worst.
It was bad. Two of
Like,
10.
yeah,
And
a
and
couple of
and they
them
were
were
bad shots.
yeah, a couple of them were frustrated mid-range shots, and that's one where I think if you're not caught up in the game, if you're not whatever, I think you just say, okay, I need to ride with Heidi here. Let him take 10 shots.
Well, I mean, you start talking about this, that's the question that kind of popped into my head. What does Purdue do? Because if Cam Heidi is out there and he's sitting in the corner as he was on a number of possessions, I mean, wide open, and Braden got him the ball a couple times. He took three pointers in the game, made one of them. If if Braden gets him the ball and he takes 6, 7 threes and makes one of them, that doesn't help Purdue.
Process.
And yeah, but you know,
But
I
in
understand.
fairness,
Hold on. I understand what you're trying to say because you do have to keep these guys involved, keep them active, make them seen as a threat by the defense. But if he's missing 5 of his 6 shots and Purdue is losing games, how long does that process last before you do say, Braden, look, you don't go to him as often or only go to him in these circum. You can't do that. So how do you manage it?
so kind of forgotten in all this is yes, he missed the three threes or two of the three threes. The
He
two
put the
corner
ball on the
ones,
floor.
that's what I'm gonna say. He had 2 possessions where he caught it, drove, and got Trey Kaufman ran layups. I thought that was a big like growing up point for Heidi. He's like, okay, I'm not making it. Let me get my head down. Let me get into the paint, stay on 2 feet. And then he found Trey twice for 2 layups. that comes with reps. That comes with getting the ball. That comes with like being aggressive. So like I that's just kind of what you have to do because that's how Purdue plays basketball. That is the cost of living process over results is you keep making the same play because it's the right play.
Yeah, it is just it's been so strange to see the drop off from Cam Heide offensively. Now, I know he was used in a more limited capacity last year. You look at his 3-point percentage last year, he was at 45%. However, he only averaged one attempt per game if you go out through the whole season. In this year, he's sitting at 29% from three and has taken 2.2 a game. So he doubled his usage, but he dropped his percentage by just over 15%. Um, so I don't know what the answer is, but I hope he can find it because Purdue needs another consistent offensive threat to prevent that sagging off, as you were talking about, because that makes Braden Smith's job so much harder. And he really is the leader of this offense. And when you've got basically two guys watching him, everything just becomes so much more difficult. But even that, Purdue scored 84 points.
Yeah, I think these like I don't think Cam Heide was his shot was a reason why Purdue lost. I don't think anything on the
No, I
offensive
mean
side
Purdue's
is.
defense. Purdue's defense was the reason they lost.
Yeah, I just think it's easier to blame someone for missing shots. I think it's
Yes,
an
it is.
easier conversation to like complain
What
about.
and it's more obvious.
Yeah.
It's more obvious when you go 1 of 6, or like poor Caleb First when you get blocked 4 times, during a game, versus not everybody sees the guy in the corner who maybe gets beat on defense or
Mm,
turns his back and then his guy back cuts him, whatever.
yeah.
That is a lot harder to see for the average viewer. And so it's easy to look at the guy on offense and go, well, you missed another open one,
Right.
and throw your hands up.
Yeah. I for me the toughest conversation is still when you're talking about Fletcher Lawyer, like you need everything he does on offense, but like with a team like Wisconsin playing as well as it was offensively, do you have to trust Cox and Harris more? I'm surprised they didn't play more this game. Uh, but even they were getting beat every now and again. So I think it was just bad vibes defensively from the jump. But I wonder if I don't know where that line is. I don't know how you draw it where you're like
I,
I can give up Lawyer on offense
right.
for
I think for me, if Lawyer's going to be out there struggling on defense as he, clearly did against Wisconsin, he's got to shoot more than 4 threes. Like if you're going to be out there and if you're going to be having problems on the defensive end, you've got to make up for it on the offensive end. And we've talked about this before. My opinion is that Lawyer passes up way too many threes
Mm,
that he could take. They're a little bit contested, but he's a great shooter. You got to be able to take and hit contested threes, and he's just not doing it. I mean, for him to be our best shooter and be out there 28 minutes and only take 4 3-pointers, and he made 2 of them, so he's shooting 50%.
right.
I just think if he's going to struggle on defense, he has to be more assertive on offense, and we just haven't seen that in most games this year.
Yeah, that's probably a very good point because there's a gravity effect when you are someone that's willing to just unleash. And I think a lot of times you can play with Fletch where you can kind of almost tease him into trying to drive to the hoop.
Yeah,
But yeah, I I definitely don't think it would hurt Purdue's offense if he is chucking more like 8, 9 times a game.
yeah, absolutely. I mean that's what I've wanted from him all season, and he has it every now and then. Like a couple games ago, I think he took 10 threes, but it's just not
Michigan.
consistent. Oh, was it Michigan? He took 10. There you go. So I don't know. I do think CJ Cox had a decent game on offense, got 13 points, but again, no one was doing enough on defense.
Probably should
Purdue did
mention
good.
Trey, 30 points,
Yeah,
All American, just
12 of
straight All
16.
American status now. He has continued to be truly phenomenal. He's scored 22 or more points in 5 straight games.
Yeah, that's wild.
Um, Still not, yeah, the defense isn't there. You still want more rebounding from him. Uh, but this game also only had about 25 rebounds per team. So it
Yeah.
was when
Well,
you
I
don't
mean,
miss, there's
I was
not
gonna
many,
say
yeah, when they don't
you
miss.
you go 20 of 22 inside the 3-point line. Not a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. Which definitely like Purdue was terrible on the perimeter. Like Wisconsin would have scored a lot if Zach Edey were there, but they wouldn't have gone 20 and 22.
No.
So like there is
Oh, I mean,
just
even
a
if forget Zach Edey, even if Daniel Jacobson,
I
I
don't
think
ever
was
want to
playing.
forget Zach Edey, Ledman.
I
What a
just mean,
delightful human being.
I
NBA All
just
Star
mean,
Weekend, Zach Edey.
he did. He did. I just mean there's no chance he was going to be on this team. We knew that. So forget what he could bring to this team. Just
Technically, you could have taken a COVID year, Ledman, so your
okay.
impossibility is a little over
Listen,
exaggerated.
we knew he was not going to come back, is my point. So Daniel Jacobson, we saw for just over a game this year. I'm not saying he would, be out there blocking 6 shots a game and grabbing a dozen rebounds, but the presence of a 7-footer with the ability to block some shots will alter some shots, will change your offense. And I just think it would have made so much of a difference in this game. Could it have done enough? I don't know. We would have to see how he improved throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't. Nationally, it annoys me that hasn't been more of a like, oh, by the way,
Right.
Purdue lost their starting center a game into the season. Going even further back, every Purdue loss, like every time they struggle, like fans on the Twitter
The Twitter.
just bring out this we should have gotten a transfer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
And
mean,
we're
I see
just
it too on our.
ignoring that once again, 4 days before practice started, Purdue was one scholarship over. Not only is Daniel Jacobson designed to be on this team, near 5-star recruit Cannon Catchings was going to be on this team.
Yeah.
Like, like we didn't get word he didn't decommit or get pushed out until the week freshmen were moving into their place.
Right.
There was no window where Painter could get another guy. He also didn't need another guy because he had a rim protector on his roster and he had a giant wing who rebounds really well. In theory, would defend. In theory, would be the third, fourth scorer. Like the design of this team was supposed to include Cannon Catchings.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And he covers up a lot of those things that were worried, even if he's not like excelling right now at BYU. Which, guess what? I'm shocked that the guy who's had maturity issues throughout his high school career is struggling in his freshman year at a place he went to because he felt in some way he could do almost anything he wanted except, drink alcohol or have sex.
Well, I'm not touching the Mormon of that.
Just saying.
Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting that those two losses don't really get talked about when people mention both how well Purdue is doing overall, but also when they hit a bout of struggle as they have over these last two losses. It's not like, oh, well, keep in mind they lost a star incoming freshman and they lost their starting center who'd only played a game because he broke his leg. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot to remember as we look at where this team is. But anything else on Michigan or Wisconsin before we take a break and kind of talk about the Big Ten and Purdue's next game against Michigan State?
I don't know how Michigan keeps doing it.
Oh yeah, another close victory against Ohio State yesterday. I think it was 2 or 3 points.
Too
So
well, the
that's like
amount of shot
what
free throws. Yeah.
6 games in a row or 6 wins by 3 or less, I think.
Yeah. Bruce
It's
Thornton
just
just
wild.
wide open for a floater. Thrown
Yep.
off by Danny Wolf falling to the ground.
Well, Michigan loves to fall to the ground. So I'm just saying they're a weird team to watch. So all right, folks, we'll be right back to look around the Big Ten and at Michigan State. And we are back. So, Casey, Purdue next in action on Tuesday against the Michigan State Spartans, a team I believe that you do not believe in. You correctly picked IU to beat them when we recorded last, so kudos to you on that. Why don't you believe in this Michigan State team? And do you think there are any matchups Purdue is favorable or unfavorable as they head to East Lansing?
Well, they got a bunch of poo-poo shooters.
I'm going to translate that from Casey to normal speak. They only shoot as a team 29% from three. So poo poo shooters, as Casey
Poo-poo shooter.
says,
Yeah. When you look on the Ken Palm, whole bunch of dark red right there on the 3-point percentage.
which is bad. The
Bad.
dark red
Bad.
means bad. You want to be in the green when you're looking
Green
at Ken
good.
Palm.
Yeah. I look at it two ways. I look at it they can't shoot in a way where like if Mike Woodson can come up with a game plan that looks like he outcoached you, you have some deficiencies somewhere. Uh, they've lost, what is it now? 3 of their last 5. Somehow pulled off that Illinois game. Um,
Yeah. Another
if you
team
want,
that could have
yeah,
helped Purdue but didn't.
you can talk about a team sinking.
Did you, and I did you see the fact that at 6:45 in the game, Illinois was like up by 1 and
Mhm.
only had 67 points. And then for the last 6:45, they did not score and got a goaltend taken away, so they lost 2 points.
Yeah.
That is
Just
wild.
maybe the worst coaching job of the season.
By Underwood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a train wreck. Um, but I think if you're talking what I feel best about is Trey Kaufman right inside. And in general, I don't think he's like it's weird to say coming off of Jackson Kohler's best game of his career, where his 23 points helped beat Illinois. But I just don't trust those Michigan State bigs. That's why I thought IU would win because Umar Ballo and
Yeah.
uh, Renew are better than anything Michigan State had. Turned out that was the case. Uh, they were better than anything Michigan State had, and Trey Kaufman-Renn is on an absolute heater. Like, there's
Yeah, oh
no
for
one on
sure.
Michigan State's roster that can contain him. If I'm if I'm looking at anything, and now even thinking back, we talked about the Wisconsin game. I don't think Purdue did a good enough job getting Trey the ball more. And Painter mentioned it slightly, like Trey was great when we got him the ball. That's code word for like
Yeah.
I'm gonna yell
We
at
got
my
to get him the
guys a
ball more.
lot, and that's a lot more like Zach Edey. Like we're getting into Zach Edey like right of first refusal territory with how good
Touch the ball every time, yeah.
Trey Kaufman's been. So I especially when you look at Michigan State and where they're strong and all those guards and the pressure and the speed and everything they can do on the perimeter. I'm if Trey doesn't shoot 30 times, first of all, I'm sitting Trey down and say, if you foul a second time in the first half, I'm
Too
going
bad.
to do something. I'm going to
Well,
take something away. Do I'm going to take, he
take
really likes
something
ping pong.
away.
I'm taking your ping pong paddle.
Wait, is that true? He really
Oh,
likes
yeah.
ping pong? I
Yeah.
I feel like you could have said
Really likes,
anything. I didn't.
yeah. No, no, no. He really likes ping pong. Like, he's very proud of his record in the locker room for the ping pong table. Like,
Okay.
undefeated. He might have thrown that out there at one point during the
All
summer.
right. All right.
But yeah, I'm threatening to take things away from Kaufman if he gets in foul trouble.
As the parent of a 4-year-old, let me tell you, that doesn't always work. You know, you can be like, I will take away your toys, I will take away your books. And I'll be like, fine. He'd be like, ah, all right.
I'll outlast you.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I'm trying to get Trey the ball as often and much as possible. Uh, the other part is obviously like Braden Smith is not going to have two terrible games in a row. And it's weird because like he had 12 assists last game.
Yeah. And
So it's
five
like he did one
rebounds.
part. Yeah. So I don't like the Breslin Center scares you, right? Like
For sure.
then again, you also felt pretty good about coming back home to Mackey on Saturday.
Yeah.
But you couldn't be in more you could be. The only more polar opposite than Wisconsin, the way they execute an offense is Illinois. Michigan State's not that far behind.
Yeah.
Like that's not an offense that whirls. Like it doesn't run a bunch of good stuff. It doesn't have guys that are taking good shots. So I think you're counting on your defense being better because Michigan State's worse,
Yeah.
and then you're counting on Trey being by far and away the best scoring option on the court.
Michigan State for the last several years has really struggled on offense. Um, they haven't been able to shoot the three for a number of years. Now, I caveat that by saying, they shoot 29% on the season, so expect them to shoot roughly 42, 43%
Sure.
against the Boilermakers. So we'll see how that goes. But uh, I mean, if Purdue wants any chance of winning the Big Ten, they have to win this game at Michigan State because right now they are 2 games down in the loss column for Michigan. They're 1 game down in the loss column for Michigan State. So you beat Michigan State, you're tied, and you only play them once, so you have a tiebreaker should you need it for seeding in the Big Ten tournament. At that point, though, the fate is out of your hands because Michigan, again, 2 losses. Purdue and Michigan have already played twice. They do not play again this year. They have got to hope that somebody takes down the Wolverines twice if Purdue is going to walk out of here with a Big Ten championship. Now, there are 6 games remaining for Michigan. 2 of them are against Michigan State. That is another thing that could work in Purdue's favor because if Purdue beats Michigan State, they can then hope that Michigan State takes down Michigan twice. And then that would get the 3 leaders of the conference right now all at 4 losses, plus Wisconsin only got 4 losses as well. So that would at least even things up in the loss column.
Wisconsin might be the best team in the Big Ten, but just
They looked like it on
was wild.
Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. I said this when I was predicting the IU game. If Purdue beat Michigan, I thought they were going to walk away with the
Mm-hmm.
conference. And you probably could have said that about if they would have just won Wisconsin at home because it it's a 2 game lead or 2 game deficit is a lot to overcome when you're kind of done playing the top team. And it's not like Purdue failed against Michigan; they split. Like that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
But yeah, it's other teams are going to have to do stuff. It's going to be messy. Uh, I still don't think Michigan's playing the greatest. I think Michigan State's, I mean, they've got to go to Michigan, go Maryland, then they host Wisconsin after
yeah,
playing Purdue on Tuesday night. So, like, Michigan State's going to be put through the ringer in their next 4 games. Like, going 2-2 in that stretch would be delightful. Um, like, it is. If Michigan splits with Michigan State, they probably win the conference.
yeah. So I mean, just looking at the remainder of Michigan's schedule, they just beat Ohio State. They play Michigan State at home. They go to Nebraska, which has been
I
a
do think
tough
they'll lose
place.
at Nebraska. I think Fred
Okay.
Hoiberg is really good at designing defenses that flummox big guys, forcing turnovers. Danny Wolf has been susceptible. I still don't feel those guards just make me nervous if I'm a Michigan fan.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
trusting Roddy Gale is not the business that I would want to be in.
And then after they go to Nebraska, they've got 3 home games in a row: Rutgers, Illinois, Maryland. Now, as much as you dumped on Maryland previously, they are a very talented,
Maryland,
or I'm sorry, Illinois.
I see.
Illinois. Yeah. You were
Maryland's what
praising
Illinois
them.
thinks it is.
Yeah, you were praising Maryland. You were dumping on Illinois. Now, even even taking that, at face value, Rutgers, Illinois, and Maryland all have the talent to beat you. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, they come on. They not saying they've put it all, but they've certainly talent to take down Michigan. Now, whether they can, I don't know. And then they finish the season at Michigan State. So Purdue needs them to lose two of those games. Maybe at Nebraska, maybe at Michigan State are the best bets. But even then, Purdue has to go, bat 1,000 the rest of the Big Ten season. And that is a lot to ask.
It's certainly a lot to ask for the team that showed up the last couple days,
Yeah.
couple games. Purdue, I mean, maybe it really was just like it was mentioned when I asked Painter after the game what kind of caused some of the mental frustration. And the first thing he mentioned was like, this is Big Ten time. Like, they're trying to win a chip and like they can do the math. Like, they
Yeah.
realize
Yeah.
that
There's pressure.
their control of the Big Ten slipped away with another loss at home. And so, how much of that frustration does it go away now when they can kind of set their sights
I
on NCAA tournament, or do you like? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, I think there is still a chance they win the Big Ten. It's gonna be tough. It's out of their hands. They need help. But they know there's still an opportunity. And I think for guys like Trey Kaufman, Ren, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer to win three in a row, I mean, would be a hell of an accomplishment. So I know they want to fight for that, but the schedule makes it very tough, and the fact that they are now two games down in the loss column makes it even harder. So
Yeah,
I'm not optimistic about their chances at this point.
because Purdue's at Michigan State, then they go to IU, then they host UCLA. Like that's their own little 3 game.
Yeah,
uh, Coming off of 2 losses, so like it is. I know there's some sky is falling people that think they're going to lose like 4 straight to end the year or 5 straight. Like I
yeah,
don't. I think this team's too good to do that. I would be real shocked if they don't win at least one of the next 3. But like even talking like that's like what?
yeah, yeah,
What do you mean they're going to go four of? They're going to go like 1-4 over a 5 game stretch?
yeah. That would be
That's
tough.
hard to imagine.
Yeah. So
Purdue,
you
I
know,
will
I,
say,
I
Purdue lines up with Michigan State better than they do Wisconsin.
I mean that's good. I'll take that. And like you said, if Purdue truly does have a strong matchup with Trey Kaufman Wren down low, I mean just keep feeding him. Give Michigan State the Zach Edey playbook. Say we're gonna make him shoot it. We're gonna let him shoot it 30 times. He's gonna make 18 of them, 20 of whatever, because you can't stop him. And then we're gonna see what else you can do. Um, and
Also,
it's like the inverse of what we were talking about earlier. When you're getting so much production down low, eventually they're gonna have to sag. Hopefully it opens up for your shooters on the perimeter, and then we can get Fletcher Lawyer to take 10 threes, and we're gonna win the ball game.
I said at some point Purdue does have to have a game where they just make a bunch of threes.
Yeah. I mean, really, they haven't done it
In
since
theory,
the Nebraska game at home.
yeah. And even that was like kind of muted for like a big go crazy 3-point shooting game.
Well, I guess we'll learn more on Tuesday. So, Casey, any final thoughts on the Big Ten or Michigan State before we head out for the day?
No, I am serious about the Kaufman Wren All American thing.
I mean,
Like
he's playing like it.
it's becoming pretty undeniable.
I don't think he'll get it, though.
Oh,
I just, for whatever reason, I don't think he gets the respect nationally that he deserves.
you know the reason.
I Because of Purdue,
Kind of. No.
because we're a Big
No.
Ten.
Because like people just put their like mark on Braden Smith and they're like, oh, that means no one else can be great.
Well, I feel like that's certainly what they did with Zach Edey. last year. I think that's why Braden wasn't on the Kuzi Award finalist list that wasn't really a finalist list because they're like, oh, well, he's playing with Zach Edey. Zach Edey's the real star. And then everybody got in a bigger uproar and he got added on. So I don't know. I think he deserves it. I think there's little question that he deserves all Big Ten, and we'll see if they're smart enough to put him
Oh,
on
he's
there.
first team All Big Ten.
I mean, I believe that, but with 18 teams in the
Yeah,
conference,
we gotta rework. Like, there needs to be two all freshman teams, first, second team. There needs to be like 14 defensive guys. Yeah, it's
yeah, I don't know how they're doing it, but it's tough. So we will see. I think he certainly deserves it. He's playing like it right now. And in a just world, he would get it, but we don't always live in a just world, Casey. So I'm
do you want to
sorry to
give
break
a
that to you.
prediction for this game?
Do you
I
want to
can
go
see you
first?
sitting over there in like your pessimism. Like it's
I'm living
weighing
in
on you.
I'm living in the
Yeah,
pessimism.
I can
See,
see it. It's just like,
the problem is,
mm,
I am living in the pessimism right now, but I have to balance that with like the realism and take a step back. Because if I just like go on Hammer and Rails and write like the sky is falling, this is the worst, like somehow like I feel that way sometimes maybe, but I know that's not the truth. I know that's not how things really are.
man,
And
things
if I
really
do
have
that,
changed over there.
right? And if I do that, everybody's gonna be like, well, this is terrible. You got to be reasoned. But and then if I say like, look, things aren't as bad as they look right now, and here's why, people are gonna be like, hammer and rails, blowing smoke. I
Hmm.
mean, like, there's no way to win.
Do you know what's weird? Like the amount of like random integrity like that's supposed to be put on our jobs when people feel like it should be. I'm like, I cover college basketball for a living. I'm actually not ever gonna like just like shit on a bunch of 18, 22 year
Yeah,
olds.
right.
I have
Yeah,
no interest. They're like, oh, why didn't you go after him? I'm like, because it's basketball and
yeah,
like,
because they're playing a game,
yeah,
and
they're
then
all
they'll push back and be like, well, they're getting paid now. It's like, okay, I'm not going to come to your job
yeah,
and just like shit on you all day. Be
yeah,
like, what are you doing over there at
32,000 a
your
year,
desk?
huh?
Yeah. What are you making? 65 grand? Come on. Just like yell stuff out.
Yeah.
Like, no, in a polite society, I don't care if you're famous or you're rich. I'm not just going to come to your workplace and tell you how much you suck and write about it on my website. Like, I can say, hey, let's be constructive. There were some problems with the defense. So and so needs to shoot more, whatever. But I'm not just going to be like, so and so sucks.
I'll do it about Illinois. I probably shouldn't even do that.
There.
I should probably be a bigger man about that too.
Well, we have to choose our battles. But uh if a prediction for this Michigan State game,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close, but I think being at Michigan State puts it in their favor. I think I'm going to have to go a 3-game losing streak. What about
Hurts,
you?
doesn't it?
It does. It sucks. I hated saying it.
71-67 Purdue.
All right. I hope you're right. I'm rooting for Casey.
Trade time.
There you go. Trey time.
Trade time.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for